Through global efforts, progress is being made on tackling frictions in cross-border payments. The G20's roadmap for enhancing cross-border payments is in an active implementation phase with considerable activity across the wholesale, retail, and remittances payment segments. And we're joined right now by Victoria Cleland, Executive Director, Payments Directorate at the Bank of England, to look at what more needs to be done to achieve the G20's goals for faster, cheaper, and more inclusive cross-border payments, and also to hear about what the Bank of England is doing to support the G20 Roadmap. Victoria, welcome. Great to have you on the show.
Hi, thanks for inviting me.
You know, it's top of mind. What do you think are the key challenges for cross-border payments?
Every payment is different, but on the whole, what our work has found is that cross-border payments, they're more expensive, they're slower, they're harder to access, and they're far less transparent than domestic payments. And this means that it impacts not just the big wholesale players, but retail, small businesses, and really importantly, remittances. So those people who most need to get their money are getting the least sort of return on the dollars. And that doesn't feel right. So we think that if we can enhance cross-border payment, that will make a big difference to individuals, but also to the global economy. It should be a win-win.
You're absolutely right. People are looking for win-win. But when you take a look at the international landscape, what do you think is being done to make cross-border payments faster, cheaper, and, as you said, more transparent?
So there's been a big initiative pushed by the G20, which has taken a holistic approach, trying to look at all the different issues. In the past, people have said, well, the central banks did this, or maybe it's to do with AML. What we've really done is to try and look at, there are things that central banks can do, for example, changing operating hours of systems. There are things that the private sector needs to do in terms of being a lot more transparent about information they're sharing with their customers. But we also need to understand, well, what are the regulations? What needs to be changed there? Where can we get greater harmonisation, for example, in data? What can be done to enhance AML? So it's working cross-border, public sector, private sector, central banks, finance ministries, other organisations to collectively really make a difference.
There's so many stakeholders in all of this. So tell us about what the Bank of England is specifically doing to really improve this cross-border payments scenario.
Yeah, the two ways that we're helping. One is through our own operations, and the other is I'm chairing an FSB group, which is really trying to coordinate across all of the different work streams. So we're sort of some thought leadership, but in terms of our own real-time gross settlement system, last year we introduced ISO 20022 messaging. We're rolling that out. We've also increased access. So we were the first G7 central bank to enable all non-bank payment service providers to access our system. We're looking at extending operating hours. Eventually, we hope to get to near 24/7, which will again really help cross-border payments. So we're not just sort of saying it needs to be done. We're taking concrete action in the own system that we operate.
And of course, everybody is talking about ISO 20022 implementation, you know, that common language of finance. What's your perspective on the progress being made there? Is there more work needed in this area, you think?
I think that ISO is an absolutely fantastic opportunity, but you're right, we need more work to be done. And there are two ways that you can do that work. Excuse me. One is we need more countries to adopt ISO. There's been great progress so far. I think next year we're going to see more countries joining. So we've sort of set a target of November next year to really push forward. So A, we need the countries and their systems to join, but B, we need all the corporates, financial market operators to actually use the enhanced data. There's a wealth of really exciting information there. You can learn about your customers, you can learn about AML, but people just aren't using the benefits of ISO yet. We need to spread the word.
Spread the word and get them going on that, absolutely. We're also interested in your thoughts on another aspect of improving payment message formats, application programming interfaces, APIs. What do you think the benefits are to payment system providers of moving to harmonized API protocols?
So the APIs can open up a world of data, and everyone knows the importance of data. With APIs, if you harmonise more across countries, it means that you know what data you can get, you know how to access it. You talked earlier about ISO and a common language. We kind of want APIs as a way into that language.
It's all about the integration. So we've got ISO 20022 on one hand, we've got APIs. Are there other areas do you see that the private sector should be focusing on?
I think another one is transparency. So actually telling their customers how much cross-border payment is likely to cost them, the more they can tell them in advance, I think that's key. Looking at their own processes, where can they bring efficiencies, working with the central banks in their areas, what do they want operating hours to be, so that lobbying there, making the most of ISO, as we've said. So there's plenty that can be done there.
Yeah, yeah. And lastly, Victoria, from the perspective of your role at Bank of England, as people take a look at this landscape and want to move forward, what support or resources are available for public and private sector stakeholders?
There's a wealth of information out there. So, as part of the G20 initiative, there was the assessment of what are the issues, but there are guidelines out there, for example, for central banks who want to do a self assessment in terms of operating hours. There's information to explain to industry some of the best practice out there. We've recently issued reports around interlinking faster payment systems. So on the BIS website, there's a wealth of information. The individual central banks are sharing information. FATF are doing a lot. So we want to make this work. So there's a lot of guidance out there to support people.
A lot of guidance and a lot of collaboration indeed. Victoria, thank you so much for joining us on Sibos TV. It was a pleasure having you on.
Thank you so much.
That was Victoria Cleland, Executive Director, Payments Directorate at the Bank of England.